Hi everyone, it's Christy from Green Eyed Tarot. Today I'm here to film a video called Unapologetic Tarot. And what this means is I'm going to be showing you decks that make me feel like a kid. And this is something that has come up because of a discussion that's been going on social media and in real life and just in different spaces that I am in about how when you hit a certain age, you shouldn't want to do or engage in certain activities or buy certain things or dress certain ways or color your hair certain colors. Just these conversations about age and how when you hit a certain age, like you shouldn't act like a kid anymore. Those types of conversations. And I'm here to say that I think that that is complete and utter bullshit. And I'm here to talk about tarot decks that make me feel like a kid. And an extension of that, just ways that I connect to my inner child and maintain a love of certain things that could be from my childhood, or they could be things that were created now that are for kids for now, but that I'm still interested in. And I'm 47 years old. I have no problem talking about my age and how old I am. I'm very proud of all the years that it took me to get here. And I'm aging gracefully, but I'm also not being confined to certain beliefs about what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to act at a certain age. So I've gathered some of my friends here to help me talk about my unapologetic love for decks, tarot decks in particular, that make me feel like a kid, that bring me joy, that connect me to that inner child kind of spirit. So these are decks that just make me happy, basically. Just like these things here make me happy. And at 47 years of age, I should be allowed to buy a blueberry muffin stuffy that's called Melissa Muffin if I want to. And I should be able to have a Dobby doll if that's what makes me happy. So I don't think there's really any age limit to loving certain things and loving toys and loving games and just doing activities that are typically, child activities or kid activities. So I'm here today to talk unapologetically about tarot decks that make me feel like a kid. So let's get just right into this. Let's see. So the first deck I want to talk about that just makes me feel like a kid and gives me just really fun, magical vibes is this Crystal Unicorn Tarot by Pamela Chen. So this is clearly a unicorn deck. It is literally a Rider-Waite-Smith clone featuring unicorns. So look at the backs of these. They're so fun. They're colorful and they're pastel colors and they're pinks and they're purples, and they just remind me of like the Lisa Frank like stuff I used to have when I was a kid. And just, I always wanted like a unicorn like folder when I went to school. When we were getting ready for back to school, I would always like want a unicorn folder or a unicorn binder or a unicorn like pencil case, right? And just while we're on the subject of unicorns, we know that Lisa Pepez from our wonderful tarot community is coming out with her very first tarot deck, the Unicorn's Journey Tarot. I will link all the information. The Kickstarter is going live on April 20th. I think she's having a big kickoff, a live kickoff party on her channel as well. So I'll just link all the information in the description box because we're about to have an amazing unicorn deck. And I hope you all back it because Lisa is an amazing part of our community and she loves unicorns, and unicorns are just a big part of her life, and I think have been a big part of her life, throughout her childhood. So yay for unicorns and yay for decks that make us feel like kids. So here's the Crystal Unicorn Tarot again. It is literally a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, just featuring unicorns. So it's so fun. So if you're a traditionalist and you like the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and you're sort of a traditionalist in that way, then this deck might be a great way for you to incorporate your love of Rider-Waite-Smith and your love of unicorns. Or if you loved unicorns when you were a kid, this might be a great way to connect with that energy again. So It is so cute. And like I said, it just features unicorns within the structure of what we traditionally know as the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. Oh, I love this Nine of Swords. He's got his little foot over his face, just covering his face. So, and this is not to say that this isn't a serious tarot deck. This is just, in my opinion, for me, within my collection, a deck that makes me feel like a kid and just brings me that youthful feeling, right? That feeling of when I loved unicorns and I wanted unicorns all over everything that I owned. And I wanted everything to be pink and purple sparkly unicorns, which is so funny because I don't really like the color pink in terms of me wearing pink. Although I have been adding more pink to my wardrobe lately, oddly enough. So maybe connecting with all this kid-like energy is getting me back into the color pink. But this is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot by Pamela Chen. And it is just adorable. And it unapologetically makes me feel like a kid. And like I said, it's not to say that these decks can't be used. I mean, tarot can be used however you want. Any tarot deck can be used in whatever way you feel connected to use them. So it's not to say that these decks aren't serious tarot decks. And I don't really necessarily think we have to put them into categories. But just thinking about decks that make me feel like a kid and give me that feeling of that youthful feeling, these are the ones that come to mind. Okay, so the next deck I want to share is the Crystal Visions Tarot. Oh my God, this is from US Games. This is a mass market deck. So, and this has been around a long time. I love this deck. I used to use this deck all the time. I feel like when I first got it, which was a long time ago, I used it quite a bit. The backs are really pretty. Again, purple. But this deck, and I know a lot of people who use this deck regularly, like as their regular deck, like their everyday reader. I see this come up a lot I've seen it on YouTube recently. I've seen it on Instagram. It is a great deck. Again, sort of like a Rider-Waite-Smith within that theme, but obviously not as traditional as the Crystal Unicorn. But it's got such a 90s, like fairy, like goth type of vibe to me a little bit. So this one, you know, kind of reminds me more of like being a preteen, like kind of energy, but I love it. It's like a storybook. It's got crystals. It's got dragons. It's got fairies. It's got knights. It's got mermaids. Like it just makes me feel like a kid. And I like every so often I pull this deck out, and it's just fun. It's just fun to pull it out and just pull cards and again just connect to that childlike type of energy. I don't know if anyone. I'm 47, so I used to watch the show Gem, and it was like based on Gem and the Holograms, and it was the best show ever. It was like my favorite show. I watched it all the time, every day. Something about this deck reminds me of Gem. Don't ask me why. Gem was like not a fairy, and she, you know, was not taking place in this type of world, but something about it reminds me of Gem. I don't know if it's like certain figures in the deck have like pink hair like she did, like that kind of hair. I don't know, but it totally reminds me of that show, which was such a great show, and I loved it so much. It like reminds me of like back in like the 80s and 90s, like a young adult romance novel, like set in like a fantasy world. So we're talking like back then. Oh, I used to read these choose your own adventure books, and they had a whole bunch of choose your own adventure books that were like, had girls as like the main character. And I remember I used to read one. Oh my God, what was the name of it? It was called Ring of the Ruby Dragon or something like that. It was a choose your own adventure book. The cover of that book looked like this deck. Definitely. That's what that reminds me of. So yeah, this just brings me back. It just takes me back, even because, not just because it's a deck I've had for a while, but it just brings me back to that feeling of like being a kid. So that is the Crystal Visions Tarot by Jennifer Galasso. It's a US Games deck. I'm pretty sure it's still readily available. I don't think it's out of print. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one's still around. It was 2011, I think. So it's not that old, but it's definitely been around for a while. Okay, so the next deck that makes me just feel like a kid and kind of brings me back or connects me to a time of my child is this deck, which is the Tarot of Little Secrets. So this deck is super cool. I think I featured it. I think I have a walkthrough, which I'll link. I believe I have a walkthrough of this deck. It's so cool. So this is by Laura Stamper and Sam Lofgren. And so this deck has little like hidden pictures, so that hence the name Tarot of Little Secrets. I think it's still in order from when I did my walkthrough. I really do. I think it is. So these are the backs. They look like a window. So this deck is super cool, like I said, because it has these little hidden pictures in them, which are, it's really neat to find them and like kind of connect them to the meaning of the card and things. But the reason, that's not really why the reason this deck reminds me of being a kid. The reason this deck reminds me of being a kid is because it reminds me of art class. It reminds me of the kind of art we used to make. And that's not knocking the artist or the creator of this deck. I don't mean that this looks like a child did it. I just mean the colors. Like we used to use those, oh my God, what were they called? Like the oil pastels, like oil crayons. We use those all the time, these oil pastels, like crayons. And like it used to make these types of colors, like this saturation. And it just reminds me of like the way those oil pastels used to create. And so something about this deck reminds me of like art class, like being in art class when I was a kid and creating like, we used to create like mosaics and like, so to me, this has a very like mosaic like feel. I love the art on this deck. I think that's why. It's something about it reminds me of like the type of like drawings I used to do as a kid. And to me, like I was a horrible like artist. Like I am not very talented like in that way with like painting or drawing or anything. I never have been. So like mine would be like horrific looking, you know, usually like the things that I created, but this just reminds me of being in art class. I really like the style of art. It's like a little whimsical. Like I said, there's these little hidden pictures, which is really cool in this deck, but there's something really like whimsical about it and really like down to earth. Like it's, I don't know, man. It reminds me of like when how kids are like unapologetic about their art, right? They think their art is beautiful, which is amazing. You know, kids have that ability to just, you know, to love like the things that they create. They don't have, you know, a world telling them that it's not like good enough or not, you know, and there's this thing that they have inside them. And so it just reminds me of like being in art class and like it didn't really matter like what it came out to look like, right? It was like about the process, thankfully, at least in my experience, like, you know, when just art I can remember in like elementary school and stuff, like it was like a good time. It was like we were allowed to enjoy art for what it was. We studied all different types of art and like, you know, studied all different artists and like just tried to do all different types of art. So this deck, like I feel like I definitely brought home some stuff that looked a lot like this, like with different colors, lots of like deep colors and saturated pages that I had just kept coloring and adding more color and adding more layers and things. So that is the Tarot of Little Secrets. And the creators called it a playful deck for troubled times, which it is very playful. I didn't even realize it says that on there. So it totally just brings me back to that time of play and connects me and makes me feel like a kid. Let's see. So the next one that I want to talk about is the Luna Lapin. So this is like right here with all my little stuffy friends right now. This is like the perfect deck to have out. So these are the backs. This is an indie deck. I actually bought this secondhand, but it is a great copy. So if anyone doesn't know the Luna Lapin, sorry, it tends to stick together. It's an interesting cardstock. The front is matte and the back is like glossy. So it's like different on both sides. So it's interesting. It's going to be easier for me to do it this way. So this is basically, again, Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but with bunnies, okay? With little bunny rabbits. I mean, can you just die? This deck gives me cute aggression. Like, ooh, I just want to squeeze them because they are so stinking cute. Look at this 10 of Wands. Like, what? I mean, how do you make the 10 of Wands cute? Like, it's ridiculous. How do you make that big, that heavy burden just so adorable? Like, look at the bunnies. And some of them have just the cutest facial. Like, look at the 2 of Swords. It's a little bunny with his whiskers sticking out of the blindfold. So, of course, this deck just makes me feel like a kid because of the cute, fluffy bunnies. And I must say, it's a great reader. Like, there is nothing wrong with any of these decks. The fact that they just make me feel like a kid doesn't lessen like what they mean in using these as a tarot tool at all. I mean, if anything, they just bring me joy. So when I need to feel like uplifted, you know, or I need that little boost, I need to connect back to joy. Like, these are the ones that I will reach for. The decks that make me feel like a kid, you know, make me find that inner joy, you know, that sort of carefree thing that I had when I was a kid, you know, when I just didn't care about a lot of things. And, you know, the thing I had to do most was play, you know, and play was like the biggest thing that I had to do, you know. Look at this page. Oh my God, he's got little floppy ears. So that's the feeling, definitely. Oh my gosh, look at this, little bunnies. So this one is always going to be one that's going to make me feel like a kid. Because it's just adorable. Oh my God, look at the 3. Like I said, how do we make the 3 of Swords cute? There it is. You just put a white fluffy butt bunny on there. And that's it. So that is the Luna Lapin Tarot. And again, it is an independent deck. I did get it secondhand. I'm not sure who the creator is. The guidebook is in another language. I think it's in Vietnamese or Thai. So it's difficult for me to determine who the creator is. But I don't know that it's available still. It might be out of print, this deck, but. So I apologize if it is, but that is the Luna. Oh, here's the creator's name. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to like butcher that name. Kanitsart Semanoparat. So hopefully I didn't butcher that name, but that is the creator of the Luna Lapin Tarot. Just a joy of a deck. Okay, so what else decks that make me feel like a kid? Unapologetically, this is the Lazy Crow. This deck is awesome. This is the Lazy Crow Tarot by Nicholas Crago. This is an independent deck. I got it on Etsy. Here are the backs. This is a very cheeky take on the Rider-Waite-Smith. So it's sort of like the artwork was created with as few lines as possible while trying to remain as close to traditional as you could. So is kind of like the way I remember like reading about it. So very few lines, but so fun. This reminds me of like as a kid when you try to draw like cartoons, like you'd make your own comic books, right? This is what they would ended up looking like. Or just something about the people, like the figures in this, just they're so quirky, and they just remind me of like cartoons, like watching cartoons, or like I said, creating your own like comic books or something. I don't know. Like it's just something about it is so, it's just so fun. I think this deck is so great. I think this is one of those really underrated decks. I do not see enough of this deck around. Every once in a while, I'll like see it on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, I love the Lazy Crow. It's so good. I I love it. I love the way that they're drawn. I love that they have no mouths. Like, I just think it's so good. And it just makes me feel like a kid. I love it. It's so good. I definitely don't hear enough about it. But yeah, it's something about it reminds me of being like a preteen, like middle school. Like drawing little, like when you used to draw little like cartoons in the margins of your notebooks, like while you're in school. And like you would draw little things, like, and it usually was like making fun of whatever the teacher was saying. So you would draw like bubbles, like the speech bubbles coming out of their mouths. That's what this deck reminds me of. Like drawing little like scenes in the corner of your notebook where you drew, you know, speech bubbles. You know, like I said, usually like mocking the teacher or like making fun of one of your friends or, you know, something. And then you would show it to your friend to make them laugh. So that's what this deck just reminds me of. So this is the Lazy Crow Tarot. Definitely one that makes me feel like a kid. Puts me in that, like I said, that middle school, like, kind of frame of mind. Which, let's face it, is where like a lot of my sense of humor lies. So that's good that it puts me there. Okay, so what else do we got? I got 4 more decks. Decks that make me feel like a kid. Okay, so here is the Sweet Foragers Tarot by Sam Rook. This deck is so awesome. Let me just say the guidebook on this deck is amazing. It reads like a little story. It's so good. This is such a good little guidebook. Yeah, it reads just like you're wandering through a story. So that's one of the reasons why it makes me feel like a kid. And then the size, it's so cute. Look at the size of this deck. And can we just talk about how Melissa Muffin matches this deck? Like, it's just perfect. Like, Melissa Muffin and this deck. Okay, they're meant to be. It's got this green edging. It's their matte cardstock. It's such a cute little size. It fits like right in your hand. It's awesome. And it's super whimsical. So it has the suits are renamed. So here we have the crystals, which I love. But they look, again, they're very like cartoon-like. Not to say that like the artwork is cartoons necessarily, but it has that, it's kind of like a cartoonish like storybook. I love the colors. I actually love the border around it, like the way it's framing it. It looks like you're looking in on a scene. But it is so good, this deck. I am so glad I picked this one up when I did. I've had it for a little while now. But it is so good. And like I said, the guidebook reads just like a storybook. So this one definitely it just makes me feel like a kid. It gives me that joyful, playful, you know, type of energy. Look at the 6 of Wands. Oh my gosh, I can't. That is so cute. Oh my God, look at the 2 of Wands. I love this deck. Look, it looks like Dobby's ears. They look like giant house elf ears. Look at the Magician. It's almost like a little fairy godmother. And then like she's got like her cat who has the same wings as her. Oh my God, I love this deck. Look at this Queen of Daggers. The mermaid with her little mer baby. Like, this reminds me of like, as a kid, like the worlds I used to create in my mind. Like the things that I used to come up with. Like these characters I used to, you know, come up with. That's what this reminds me of. It's so imaginative. It just has so much imagination. It's so good. And like I said, the size is so great. Like, it's such a good little size. It's just so good. All these little characters in it. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at the tower. Again, how do you make a tower look like so cute? Like, and not confronting and like not scary. So yeah, this just reminds me of like, of being a kid, man, and like hanging out and making up stories and creating worlds. So this is the Sweet Foragers Tarot by Sam Rook. Just a perfect little deck. And like, look at the little box. It's in like this little 2-piece box. This is a rock pool, mass market. It's so cute. Okay. We're getting down to the last 3. Okay. So this is one that makes me feel like a kid, and it may be like, so maybe like, why? And I think this is still in order because I planned on doing a walkthrough of it and I didn't. But this is the Kalaka Tarot deck by Bob Rob Medina. So this is, I got this on Etsy. And so it's based on his original art. And again, I think this just hits me like in like this funny place. Like it makes me laugh. So here we have the 2 of Cups. And again, it's not to say that it's not like it can be used like a regular tarot deck. Like this, you know, could be someone's everyday deck. Like I could definitely see me using this like on a daily basis as we get into fall with just the skeletons, like the way the skeletons are. But to me, like look at the skeleton with the arms crossed, feet crossed. Like, no, you know, like, no, I'm not accepting what you have to offer. Like it just hits me like funny. Like it hits me in the fun. Like look at the 6 of Cups with like the little skeletons. So to me, this just, again, it makes me think of like Halloweens from when I was a kid and just like Them Bones, you know, like that Them Bones song, right? And like we used to sing that song. I feel like we used to sing that song in school. Them bones, like that song. I feel like we used to sing that song somewhere like in school. It brings me back again to like memories. It hits on memories from when I was a kid. And it's just fun. I love the colors. Like I said, traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. Like definitely following the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's just these skeletons. And I don't know if you can hear, I have my windows open, but the ice cream truck is coming through and I hear the ice cream truck song. So if that's not the perfect, like just little boost of like decks that make me feel like a kid and being unapologetic about it, I don't know what is. It's the ice cream man. The ice cream truck is coming around and he's playing his little tune. So I just think that that's perfect. So I hope you guys can hear that because it's like simultaneously exciting and annoying at the same time. It like simultaneously is driving me crazy, but also making me want a vanilla soft serve cone with rainbow sprinkles. So like I'm about to stop this video and run downstairs and catch the ice cream truck because that would be awesome right about now. But yeah, so this is the Kalaka Tarot. Again, it's a great little deck and I think will be so fun around, like I said, the Halloween time, September, October. Look at this. Very traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, so easy to read, easy reader. Just a great little deck. Like I said, I got it on Etsy. I think it was very affordable too. I feel like it was a very affordable deck, but really cute. And just gives me the feels of like when I was a kid. All right, so we have 2 decks left. Okay, so this one's going to be like probably no surprise to anyone, but we have the Mons Tarot by Joanna Nelson. This is the 2nd edition of this deck. I don't know why I waited so long. So I waited so long on this deck and then missed out on the 1st edition. So I had to wait quite a long time. So it was really hard because this deck is one that is just one of the most whimsical and just sweetest little decks I've ever seen. And it's not little by any means. It's actually quite large. These are oversized cards, but they are just magical and whimsical. And these little monsters are they're just darling. And I'm like kind of sad I never got the little bug. I think it's the little bug oracle because that's the one that was created based on all the little bugs that are in this deck. So like I feel like I might have to get that, the little bug oracle. But this deck is more than enough in terms of meeting my need for these little monsters. They're just the sweetest. And again, I know this deck has been around, so I know all y'all have seen it, like so much. But, this is one of those decks that's so gentle and it's like a hug. It's like a hug. It's like a warm day, like when you were a kid and you like laid in the sun, you know what I mean, at the beach, or you just laid in the sun for a long time and you just felt that warm sun on you. And like, again, like I was saying, like a kid when you didn't have like a care in the world at that moment, that's what this deck is. And it gives you it's so playful and they're so cute. Like they're so weird, some of them, that they're cute. Like they can't help but just be super adorable. I mean, look at that. This is like a pig with like a unicorn horn or something. It's a pigacorn. I can't. It's just the cutest thing ever. And and now that I'm like flipping through it, I'm going to have to keep this deck out because this is one of those that like, it just brings me so much joy. It's just a joyful little deck. And I think that we should just be so thankful to Joanna Nelson for what she puts out, into the world for us to use as a tool of tarot. Because I think it's great that we have these decks that, are sort of more whimsical and playful and do put us in touch with that kid side of ourselves. I think it's vital. I think we need it. I don't think it in no way diminishes the use of these decks as a tool, as a tarot tool, and being able to read them, because that's what they are. While we like love the images, right? We just fall in love with the artwork. In the end, this is a tarot deck, and we can just flip through it to just enjoy the images if we want. I feel like we can do that with any deck, and I feel like that it's okay. You're going to read the tarot cards and get meaning from them, but sometimes you just want to hold them in your hand and shuffle them. And sometimes you just want to stare at the cute monsters, and have them fill you with like so much joy that it just puts you a smile on your face, and it puts you in that place where you feel happy, and safe. And for that moment, you just feel joy, like unadulterated joy, and there's moments we have like that in life. And there's moments we have like that with our tarot decks, when we're just by ourselves flipping through cards. And I feel like I'm calling this video Unapologetic Tarot because I feel like no one should have to apologize for the way that they utilize tarot, as long as it's not hurting anyone, right? As long as it's not hurtful to any part of our community, or hurtful to themselves, and as long as it's not negative in any way, and as long as it's if it's good for you and it feels good the way you're using them. And if you're using tarot just to flip through and look at the pretty art for right now because you're not sure if you want to dive into learning all the meanings, if you're just starting out, or if you're a seasoned reader and you've been reading tarot for years and years, but right now you're in a rut, and so sometimes you take out your deck and just shuffle them while you're watching TV just to have your hands on them and just flip through them and look through them and not actually doing readings. That's okay. If you're taking out your decks every day and doing readings several times a day because that's what's bringing you joy or helping you get through a tough situation, then that's okay. There's no right or wrong way, and there's no right or wrong deck. If it resonates with you, and then it's unapologetic. There's nothing to apologize for. And for me, as a 47-year-old woman, I love the Mons Tarot. It brings me so much joy, and I don't care what anyone thinks about that. And I love all of my toys. I love having my toys. I love playing games. I love being silly. I love cartoons. I love animated movies. And I love a lot of things, but that's just one part of who I am, and I will never apologize for it. So people come over my home and they don't like seeing teddy bears or a muffin or, Dobby the house elf from Harry Potter or any other of the things that I have in my house, then that's okay, but it's my home and it's what brings me joy. So I will never apologize for having things that bring me joy and connecting with things like this. Oh, look at the Queen of Pentacles is like my favorite card in the tarot deck. Look at this. Look at this monster. What are you? That looks like a goaticorn. And then there's like a flying bunny. I don't know, but it's perfect. It's perfection. So the Mons Tarot will forever be a deck that makes me feel like a kid, and rightly so, because it's just so magical and it's so special. So I'm so glad we have that, and we have creators that create tarot decks that allow us to connect with that. So the last one I want to share, and then I will be quiet, is this deck, the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, which is an amazing deck in and of itself, an amazing guidebook. Linnea Weatherstone just knocked it out of the park with this guidebook in terms of the meanings and a look at the imagery in the guidebook. I love it. And just the way this reads like a storybook, but has so many layers in terms of meaning and folklore and magic, and ritual and nature. Marilla Allwood is just a beautiful artist. And this is actually in order, I remember, because I was planning a deep dive. So I think that should happen. So maybe that's going to happen soon. But this deck, again, is really a special deck. And I use this deck for all different types of readings. But this deck does something really special in that it draws you in. I think I featured this deck in the video I made on narrating the tarot, so storytelling. And this deck does that so well. This is one of the most perfect decks for that. It's like being in a storybook. It's like entering, right? It's called the Forest of Enchantment. So it's like entering an enchanted storybook and meeting all the people and the characters and the creatures and seeing all the settings that they live in, the environments and the situations that they find themselves in, and this world that's got a structure and politics and, and dangers and challenges. And so it's very much relatable to our lives, but it pulls us into this magical, enchanted world. And it's just really something special. And I think at the time this came out, I don't know that we had many decks like this. I know that I feel like when I got this deck, I didn't have many decks like this that gave me this feeling and that pulled me in and had such a storybook feel to it. And then, like I said, the guidebook is it's just perfect for that. So it doesn't mean that there's no dangers, right? It definitely reminds me of the fairy tales that we've heard growing up. So like Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood and just Snow White and Cinderella and like all that. They all had like a villain. They all had like those scary moments, right? They all had some kind of lesson, built in with them. And we know the Grimm's fairy tales are pretty, are definitely not the ones we heard from Disney and things like that. The Grimm's fairy tales were quite grim, excuse the pun. No pun intended, but they were. And they were, they were definitely some more like scary and adult, themes going on there. But so that's this deck. Even though this deck is so whimsical and brings you back to feeling like, a kid who just reading a storybook that's filled with magical beings, it's so relatable as a tarot deck to read. So this deck is definitely, makes me feel like a kid in so many ways, and yet is also so, so good at being a tool, as a tarot deck. And it's just so magical. So, and I know a lot of people feel that way about this deck. I see this deck so much, and rightly so. It's, it's definitely one that I'll never, will never leave my collection because it's so special. And I've sort of bonded with it now. So that's the Forest of Enchantment Tarot by Linnea Weatherstone, and Marilla Allwood is the artist. Again, very popular deck. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, know about this deck and probably have it. So there you have it. The decks that make me feel like a kid, and I will not apologize for it. I love it. And I'm very happy to have these decks and to be able to connect to the energy the way I do. And now I have one more thing that I need to show you. I'm going to flip the camera around to do this. So give me 1 minute and I'll be right back. I'm back again. So I have one more thing that I need to, or that I would like to show you. And this is especially for Robin from Robin's Reflections. I'm so sorry. I had promised that I would feature this on my channel during the last video and I completely forgot. So I apologize. And I would love, speaking of being a kid and connecting to the childlike energy, and always being connected to that, I would love to share with you my Care Bears lunchbox. So I am 47 years old. I take my lunch to work with me every day, and almost every single day my lunch comes with me in this Care Bears lunchbox. So this is a collaboration between Care Bears and Igloo. Igloo is a company that makes coolers, right? So this is essentially a giant cooler bag. But it is Care Bears, and I absolutely adore it. It's original Care Bears, so this is the 45th anniversary. So for anyone who loved Care Bears as a child, these are the original Care Bears, not the scary new Care Bears that have the giant eyes. These are the original. So you can see, I just want to point out the feature of the rainbow zipper. Like, can we just appreciate the rainbow colored zippers, and then of course the rainbow strap. So it is quite magical, and it's something I absolutely adore, and I will never apologize for it. Every time someone sees me with this, they ask me where I got it. It just brings a smile to everyone's face. They start to remember. I can see them remembering. Oh, I watched that. They tell me I watched that all the time as a kid. Oh, I used to love Care Bears. I like still have a Care Bear, or I love those Care Bears. So it brings people joy, even though it's not even theirs. Just seeing it tends to bring them joy. It puts a smile on their face, and that's really what it's all about. So as a 47-year-old, I will never apologize for loving my Care Bears lunchbox. I will never apologize for Melissa Muffin. She's a blueberry muffin, in case you were wondering. I will never apologize for Melissa Muffin, because they bring me joy, and I don't care how old I am. I'm always gonna love things like this. And I feel like they're always going to bring me joy, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's fleeting, even if it seems shallow. I don't care. I don't care. I am embracing it, and I am unapologetically myself, and I will always be unapologetically my authentic self now, and will embrace my Care Bears lunchbox. And I hope you do the same. So I would love to hear what decks make you feel like a kid, get you in connecting to that inner child, that just make you feel joyful and innocent and like you did when you were a kid. So I would love to hear your unapologetic tarot, whether it's decks that make you feel like a kid or some other thing that you don't feel like apologizing for, that you feel like you've had to sometime in your life. I just want to know. I would love to hear about it, so definitely comment below. I would appreciate you so much if you give this video a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. I do talk about all things tarot, and oracle decks, and deep diving into tarot decks, and just talking about decks that I love, and how tarot plays into my life, and how to use tarot, and how I read it, and I love to share and connect on those things. So I would love it if you subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.